The PS5 Pro just leaked. And before I jump into it all, I want to let you guys know that this video is sponsored by me. Yes, I have so many links down in my description for any PS5 accessory you might need. So before we get started on this video, there were actually some pretty cool news updates from PlayStation that I think are worth mentioning. First of all, we are getting a state of play. It's going to be next week on June 2nd at 3 p.m. Pacific time, and it's going to be about 30 minutes long. Now, Sony says in the PlayStation blog post where they announced this, that we're going to see some updates from third-party developers, and also we're going to see some unannounced PSVR 2 games. Of course, I think it'd be cool if we got to see some info on God of War Ragnarok. There have been a ton of rumors that after Starfield and Redfall got delayed, Sony's feeling a little less pressure to release that game this year, so they might be pushing it out of 2022, but then we heard rumors that that's not happening. Of course, we'll also probably get a mention about Hogwarts Legacy because we just got a news update on that game that was admittedly kind of small, but they revealed that when you're running around Hogwarts, the DualSense controller's lights will be the color of the house that you choose or is chosen for you by the Sorting Hat, which is pretty cool. And then finally, I hope this is when we finally get to hear about what's going on with the multiplayer Last of Us game, the remake that we've been hearing about for months. I feel like now is about the time for Sony to reveal it because we've heard so many leaks. Oh, and then also in this video, Ray and I talked about this glitch that was happening over in Asia with the new PS Plus, where people who stacked a bunch of PS Plus and PS Now to get it for 60 bucks a year were realizing that they would have to pay an upgrade fee for the difference of that $120 a year or whatever the equivalent is in that country. Sony came out and said they fixed it, but everything I talk about I think still stands. When this stuff is announced, I think it's always smarter to wait until you know what games you're going to get before dropping a ton of money, potentially hundreds of dollars on this stuff, because you don't really need it. You can just keep the original PS Plus and generally be fine. So yeah, I think that about covers it. Let's jump into the video. If you stacked a bunch of PS Plus hoping to get in on premium for cheap, you're going to want to watch this. And is Apple trying to buy EA? Well, I brought my friend Ray here from PSReady to find out. How's it going?
There is some crazy stuff going on PlayStation side of the fence. I'm seeing people on Twitter saying that they've stacked a bunch of discounted versions of being now upcharged for PS Plus Premium. Is this true? What's going on?
Hey, my advice when this trick happened way back just a few weeks ago, when people found this loophole where you could get a discounted version of PS Plus and PS Now somehow, it was like 60 bucks a year versus 120, so half off. It would automatically upgrade you when this rollover happened to PS Plus Premium. Now it's turning out that all of these people who stacked years have to pay the upgrade fee. So if you paid 60 bucks for a year of PS Now and PS Plus somehow, and then this new version came out, it would be $60 to upgrade for that year of premium, which is crazy. But I don't know, man. I don't necessarily think Sony did anything really wrong here. It was just unfortunate timing for all these people who thought they were getting a deal. It's nothing compared to what you can do on Xbox with Game Pass, which is like take advantage of loopholes to stack months of Game Pass for $1 each.
Yeah, and people who are really deep into Microsoft rewards are like, I only pay $1 for 5 years of Xbox Game Pass. So there are people who are like really hack it like that.
Which, you know, you have to do a little bit of doing to figure out how to do.
You have to do a little bit of doing. But again, I feel as though there's just still confusion going on with PS Plus, the tiers, how much people are going to pay for it.
Having 3 tiers is nuts. It should be extra or premium or essential and premium. This extra one in the middle is what's really throwing people off.
The extra one in the middle, and then remind me what the difference is between the middle and the PS3 and the backwards
classic games. So you get PS1 and PSP and PS3 streaming games, and some PS2 games, I think they're the ports that were moved to PS4 for that generation. They were porting some games to PS4. So it's really cool. A lot of these PS classic games are coming with trophy support, like Siphon Filter. And one of the games that leaked today was Dino Crisis, which is an awesome game. And you get to, if you already bought these games, most of them, if not all, you'll be able to just download and buy them a la carte, which I think is sweet. So really, they're not giving you much of a reason to subscribe to premium other than these game trials, which are turning out to be actually pretty interesting. For shorter games, they're going to be 2 hours, but for something like Horizon Forbidden West, they're turning out to be 5 hours. So getting to play 5 hours of a big open world game like that, I feel like you can make that decision.
You can make a decision, that's right.
Yeah. So it's too much. I think what you're saying is correct. There's too many options.
So what do you think? They should there shouldn't there should only be the middle tier and the top tier?
No, the lowest tier and the
big
top tier. The lowest tier is just PS Plus as we know it. You get free games every month. There's a little bit of extras included on top of that. You get online play as well, so it's like giving you a little bit of an extra bonus for paying for online play, which is crazy that we even have to pay for that in the first place. The second tier should be literally everything else, like these classics, this game library, all this extra stuff that's coming along with extra and premium. Just lump it all together. You really got to take a look at it and see how many of the games that are included in this like library of games you're actually going to play, because the fact that you have the option with the classic games to just buy them a la carte, buying the ones you're actually going to play is probably the cheaper way to go.
It is debatable on whether or not it's worth it. Do you think that these people are going to get their money back? That they
no, I mean,
they're
not. It's not like they're getting nothing. They're getting a stacked few years of PlayStation Plus, which is what they purchased. Where it gets weird is the PS Now factor, and also it has to be pointed out this is happening in Asia, and there's another issue that's coming along with this where the Asian releases of these classic games are the PAL versions, which kind of makes sense. Of course, all the articles that are written about it aren't specifying that, which is kind of frustrating. We don't know for sure that if when this launches on June 13th, this upgrade path will not work, because I vaguely remember Sony confirming that this upgrade path would be fine back when this was happening.
They gotta figure out upgrade paths, period. You've talked about this I feel a million other times with other
Horizon
stuff. Horizon Forbidden West.
They announced it would be a $10 upgrade, and then they tried to do this like where it was going to be like 30 or 40. It was a crazy amount depending on which edition you bought. Upgrading from the PS4 version was nearly impossible to do for a reasonable price. And then people pointed out, they were like, yeah, Jim Ryan himself, Daddy Jim Ryan, said it would only be a $10 upgrade for a lot of these PS4 to PS5 games. And thankfully Sony honored that, but I don't want to praise them for it because they said it in the first place and tried to walk it back.
This whole upgrade situation,
it's just needlessly confusing.
They got to figure it out. Point blank, period.
So yeah, unfortunately, if you did this stacking deal instead of just waiting, it looks like you might, no confirmation yet, have to pay an upgrade fee, which is not great, but there's so many other issues with PS Plus. But my recommendation was always to wait. I was not about dropping a ton of money on stacking subscriptions.
Wise words. Yes, it seems to be that the smart decision for any of your video game purchases
just frugal,
is just to wait.
So yeah, when I don't even know what I'm dropping potentially hundreds of dollars on, not worth it. I'm not going to buy 3 years of PS Plus because I just spent $180 at the end of the day. I want to hang on to that money.
Exactly.
And then it turned out that I already own most of the games anyway, so I made the right call. We're just going to keep the crazy train rolling here, though, because next up we got to talk about the acquisition wars. We've heard about Ubisoft trying to sell themselves off.
Acquisition wars, man.
EA is like
never ending now. And
yeah.
Every week brings new rumors that usually end up
oh my god, this
to
is so
nothing.
bad. The next studio or publisher that wants to be sold is EA, apparently. Apple is the big news story, right? Like they're saying Apple was apparently in talks to buy EA, but EA also approached Disney. They've approached many other companies saying,
Amazon
please buy us. You can trace this path. You can do it with Bethesda too. Bethesda was gearing up to be sold for years before it actually happened. You know, loading up their games with microtransactions, re-releasing Skyrim on every device possible, doing the Creation Club in Fallout, an online focused Fallout game. You know, like they wanted their brand to look good for shareholders.
Right.
So they made their games online focused. Lo and behold, Bethesda gets sold to Microsoft. EA's been doing the same shit for years, hammering down these FIFA games, putting microtransactions into everything possible.
FIFA, right?
No, they didn't renew their deal, which was very smart because people have been asking EA for years to get more brands than the FIFA approved brands into these games. And FIFA was the issue. FIFA was like not budging. So EA was like, screw it, man. We don't need this FIFA brand. Like our EA soccer games are good enough to stand on their own. EA's selling those things like regardless. So yeah, EA wants to be sold because they want to cash out.
I am concerned about this because if EA gets sold to another entity,
Apple would be bad.
That would be a non-gaming entity like Apple, that is questionable for gamers.
They're gearing up
everywhere.
too. Like Apple's been patenting Switch style controllers for the iPhone
and VR.
Yeah,
right?
in VR.
Yeah.
And you know, if Apple bought EA, every game they own would suddenly be exclusive to iPhones and iPads.
Of course, and that's concerning to me because I love having EA Play as part of my Game Pass Ultimate.
Yeah, unfortunately, EA has a lot of good IP.
Yeah, the Jedi Fallen Order I can play on as part of my Game Pass.
Titanfall,
Star Wars Battlefront,
Apex
Titanfall.
Legends. Depending on who buys EA, it's kind of a good scenario potentially where if a good publisher like Microsoft, for example, or Sony bought EA, we would see them probably recalibrate. We would get a Battlefield that actually gets the amount of time it needs to be worked on. A Battlefront 3 that isn't just abandoned because they don't want to pay for the license anymore. A soccer game that can actually compete with eSoccer, eFootball, or whatever Konami has. They would probably recalibrate because they wouldn't need to have these microtransaction laden games. Also, if they're not bought, they kind of have to recalibrate anyway because they're going to have to figure out how to A, fix their reputation, and B, make good money on their games that isn't just people buying skins and shit. So,
well, their stock would plummet if they couldn't get someone to buy that. That would be a major red flag. For
Ubisoft's going through the same thing. We've heard that they're looking for a buyer as well, and no one wants to buy these studios right now because they're expensive and they don't have good reputations. Basically, that kind of is what it's boiled down to. Bethesda was teetering on the edge. I feel like Bethesda made a few big blunders before they were bought.
Yeah, with 76, and I know a lot of people were underwhelmed with Elder Scrolls Online when it came out at the time. I was part of the beta phase for that way back in 2012, 2013. So, they made a couple of missteps towards the end before they got bought up by Microsoft. But EA is is consistently voted one of the worst companies in many, many polls by Forbes and Business Insider and things like that. So I think they could benefit to be bought up, but I don't want it to be Apple. I don't want it to be Amazon. I don't want it to be Tencent. I know that's very selfish of me.
Embracer Group, come on.
Embracer Group, I wouldn't mind, I don't think.
Embracer Group's been putting out some good games.
They've been putting out some good games. I wouldn't mind that.
Everyone here watching this right now, go buy Evil Dead the game.
He's so high on Evil Dead the game.
It is so good.
He is cannot stop talking. I
don't need to advertise it on the channel because I thought it was going to be a lot smaller than it is. It sold like 500,000 copies in 5 days. So Evil Dead doesn't necessarily need help, but if you want a good Left 4 Dead style game that's actually good, unlike Back 4 Blood, shots fired, play Evil Dead. Now we get to talk about the craziest story of the week. Our friends over at TCL. Anyway, so TCL just had their big event where they showed off some new TVs, their 9th generation televisions, and Tom Henderson, famous leaker who's known for Xbox leaks but also PlayStation leaks, he noticed on the slide that they just stealth announced the next Series X and the next PS5 for 2023-24.
Yeah, because they have, what's interesting about it is that they have the date of the previous generations, Xbox One and PS4. That was the eighth generation of our TVs, and that was in 2013. And then you fast forward Xbox One, and then 2023, 2024, kind of like a Nostradamus type prediction. They said the PS5 Pro. It's right there on the freaking screen. And there's a lot of stuff that's just sus as hell about this.
Yeah,
but
it seems like a guess, but they also start talking about new AMD chips, which got me really excited. We know Sony's been struggling to get these chips made. We know Microsoft's been struggling to get these chips made. Something that kind of makes it more understandable is if they're also getting new chips ready for a new console. Like, they are just hamstrung completely, like strapped for how many chips they can actually get. I would prefer they just focus on making chips for the PlayStation 5 they're already selling, but we've seen them producing chips for PS4s. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we saw the PS5 Pro announced early 2024 for a release later that year. As much as that sucks,
do you think this generation is going to be on the same track?
This is going to be a lot. This is going to be a long
8 or 10 years, or do you think 10 years?
This is going to be the PS3, Xbox 360 era. There's a lot of stuff going on. The bad word, recession, it's coming up a lot lately. That's what made the PS3 and Xbox 360 generation as long as it was. They could make new consoles. They were basically sitting on the designs of the PS4 and Xbox One. They couldn't release them because people couldn't afford them. So that's why when those consoles came out, those consoles were severely underpowered for the tech at the time. I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but we are rapidly approaching a very similar scenario here. Making these things affordable is the problem, right? You could make a PS5 that runs as well as a computer that has a 3090 and like a 5900X in it or something. But it'd be as expensive as the gaming PC equivalent. They have to fine tune these things and whittle them down to the point where they're able to perform at a level that makes them feel like an upgrade but also is able to stay within a fair price point of around $400 to $500. There's a lot of rumors out there that the PS5 digital was going to cost a lot more than it does, but when they saw how cheap the Series S was, they basically had to make a game time decision where the thing
knock $100
was a whole $100 cheaper, which is a huge loss for them. I do not envy Sony right now or Microsoft, because they have to play a very hard game where they want to make games, right, that sell a lot of copies. So they have to look at the PS4, which has a user base of over 100 million. They have a PS5, which is nowhere near that, and it's nowhere near where it was supposed to be, right? Because they can't make as many as they would like to and get them into people's hands. So not only do they have to worry about getting more PS5s out there, they also have to time it right and rip the Band-Aid off and stop supporting the PS4 at some point, because people who already have PS5s, us, are going to be upset that we're not getting next gen games.
We're not getting next, yeah.
But then
cross gen.
They have to worry about the people who can't get a PS5. Like, it's not an easy scenario that they're in right now. Yeah, they gotta just rip the Band-Aid off at some point, move on, and
they gotta work on like
the
some
PS5
sort of,
and PS5 Pro.
Some sort of trade-in situation where they give some sort of incentive to trade in PS4s and then upgrade to the PS5. Maybe.
That would be really interesting. Like, if you already bought a PS4, you could guarantee a PS5 purchase by sending it in, and maybe they knock off
it's like they
$100.
Yeah, they already have your loyalty from the past generation, so why not, if they wanted to get these people,
because you make your money on the games.
Yeah, to have a little trade-in program. I don't know how.
I like that idea.
You know you're gonna stay in the PS4 ecosystem, and they have your money,
right?
So yeah,
it's like how Apple does it. Like, when a new iPhone comes out, you can take last year's model and get like up to $400 or $500 off of it, like 50% discount. They don't care, because they're keeping you in their ecosystem, right? You're gonna pay for Apple Music, you're gonna pay for Apple Fitness Plus and the 2 terabytes of storage and all this extra stuff where they really make their money. Like, profits aren't really coming from the consoles. That's just a fact.
No, hell no, man. A lot of people came out when that revelation was made public, like, oh man, these companies aren't making, because they were focusing on Microsoft. Microsoft, they lose money whenever they sell an Xbox. But then people did more digging, and we kind of saw that everyone loses money when it comes to these consoles. So yeah, I'm not a businessman. I'm just a dude with a YouTube channel and a Death Note T-shirt that I got.
It's a cool shirt. It's a cool shirt.
But yeah, I feel like a trade-in could be smart to kind of transition this huge player base, like you said, over 100 million, over to the next generation, and
like they want to buy a PS5,
and then they'd feel less bad for putting out this PS5 Pro whenever it comes out.
Yeah, unfortunately, man, it just doesn't look like it's gonna get that much better. I mean, we've heard that this shortage is gonna slip into 2024. It's hurting everyone. It's hurting Steam too. Valve, the Steam Deck, they can't get as many of these things out as they want. They're selling a lot of them, but this rolling pre-order system, I guarantee you, hurt how many sales they're ultimately going to reach. Sure, I've also seen a lot of talk about making another company to make chips besides TSMC, the only chip manufacturer basically
in Taiwan, right?
They make the semiconductors for these chips. People are quickly realizing how crazy it is to have one company in the entire world be able to make this stuff without any competition. Hopefully things get better in the next few years and there's some good outcome from this. Anything they can do to make it feel more next gen. We were just talking about this over on Xbox Ready. The new consoles don't really feel too next gen yet, so that'd be sweet if they could figure that out.
That'd be sweet. Are you gonna pick up a PS5 Pro in 2025?
Yes.
But yes, good news that the PS5 Pro, it seems to be on the horizon. It seems to be in the works.
Hey man, GameStop is still living. So if they can do it, Sony and Xbox can make it too. Sony and Microsoft.